Well, I'm back with a part two to what I feel like should change to Highguard. But yeah, I didn't put all of the changes that I wanted in the initial video, so I thought I would make a second video to make sure that I at least got everything out that I wanted, because I feel like that they could definitely make this game a lot better than it currently is. And they have already made some changes. I've already made that with all this pros and cons list, which I'm about to get into right about here. Okay. So the bases. To me, I made a bunch of different pros and cons lists, and basically, some of these bases they're cool. They offer different play styles and different defenses and different varying contributing factors that will make it either harder to defend or harder to attack, so on and so forth. Which a lot of the time you want to be on the same page as your team and just say, hey, I think that this would be really good for like the comp that we're running, or at least the like characters that we have. These are the weapons I like to run, so on and so forth. And then hoping that you get weapons further on that would allow you to, I don't know, if you pick the like bell tower one, have a sniper or something, or hopefully you find a purple sniper, like a legendary sniper, whatever. But there are some other things. Certain of these bases are OP as fuck. Like example, the clock tower base, or the bell tower. That one, there's the anchor stone has a massive set of breakable walls around it, and as a defender, there's no point in reinforcing them, because once those walls are broken, they stay broken. And why would you want to have less of a line of sight on somebody trying to plant the bomb in your most sacred area? That doesn't really make any sense. And some of them have very long sight lines and make it somewhat hard to push up into the enemy base. So that's, to me, definitely a con. You can be spawn camped as a defender. If you watch my last video, yes. If you happen to be outside and you know where the spawns are, you can be spawn camped within 3 or 4 seconds. Which kind of goes into my next point. It is very hard to bounce back once the bomb is planted as a defender, and arguably quite simple to hold onto the bomb onto the bomb site, i.e., the room that the bomb is planted in, once you are the attacker, because there's not really like very much of a sense of being able to bounce back from that. It's very difficult. You have to use all of your equipment. You got to use a whole bunch of different stuff, and it can pose very, very hard to try to thwart attackers once they've already kind of wiped you. After that, you're kind of just like trying to get back to the same spot. And at least in my experience, it's been proven very difficult that you can't just hop back in and say, oh, okay, well, now we're going to take them down. Okay. So bases being out of the way, looting. Pros, you can get access to better items fairly quickly if you fall behind. So this has actually been really, really nice. If you go ahead and lose the first round, which they just patched the game to where you can't just blow up 2 bombs in 1 round or just get the anchor stone and win. So if someone plants a bomb and you fall behind, you do have a very quick chance to play catch up by going and looting other loot crates. But then at the same time, like with this first con, it's kind of a cheap dopamine fix for not getting very many changes to the gear. As I said in my last video, your white tier firearms, they don't have anything special about them. The blue ones have increased stability and magazine size. The purple, every tier gives you a magazine size increase, but there's not really that many changes. I mean, you can go and look at the changes for yourself, and even go back and look at my last video and say, there's not really defining like this feels totally different type changes when you get a purple gun. Like when I get a purple gun, I'm not dealing more damage. My magazine size goes up a little bit and I reload it a little bit, and well, actually quite faster. But the jump from white to blue, to the jump from blue to purple, to the jump from purple to gold, they're almost, I don't know, like the jump to purple seems where everything really, really takes hold of you and where you can see the most changes. Whereas in a lot of other games, take any sort of other game with loot. In a game like Diablo, or I mean even a Borderlands, any sort of looter shooter really, sometimes you do get that really big difference in performance, and it's really, really nice. And other times you don't. But you can tell immediately that something is or is not taking down enemies faster than what you previously had equipped. Anybody that's played any game with loot understands this. And I think one of the main reasons is because, the guns don't deal increased damage based off their rarity, but that's further down on this list. Got a long way to go. The looting could be very good if you had an upgrade system to reward players for performing better. So, in my mind, what would have been really, really cool with Highguard is you get Vesper over time. So, like when you successfully defend, when you successfully blow up a generator, when you mine Vesper, when you... I feel like there's one more way to get it, but I'm totally drawing a blank. To me, it would have been way cooler if you could just upgrade your weapons only using Vesper and not going and looting them from the world itself. Because again, like, although there is kind of a catch-up mechanic there, it is reinforcing people for playing poorly, and it doesn't... Even though you're doing poorly, it does not reward you. Which, I mean, why should you, like... I mean, you should, like, sorry, no. It's a system that rewards you for doing bad, even if you lost, you still get another chance to go get all of this other loot. And it's like, I don't think that you should just be given something because you didn't do well. Sports don't teach you that. Like, school doesn't teach you that. Life doesn't teach you that. So it is kind of weird that, like, even if you lose a round, your loot rarity is still going to be the same as everybody else's, basically making the looting system almost, not like inept. What's the word I want to use? It just seems kind of pointless, which the first point here in cons... Oh my gosh, my throat's dry. It's kind of a cheap dopamine fix for not having that many changes to the gear. It's, oh, I had a blue weapon, now I'm getting a purple weapon. Or I had a blue helmet, now I'm getting a purple helmet. And it kind of feeds the addiction of, going through every single loot crate that you find, or every single one of those chests, or every one of those boxes, hoping that you can find something, Which I already kind of commented on this. The changes per tier of loot don't really affect a whole lot. I mean, we also don't know. As far as I understand, it tells you how much armor you get, but there's no, which, I mean, I guess it's not like you really need to know the amount of health given to your mount or the amount of speed that your mount gets, like how much of a percent increase. That doesn't really matter. But I don't know. I guess it would be nice to know, especially like what stability means, because as in my last video, it does not change the recoil pattern. It does not reduce the amount of recoil. So, like, does that mean that you swap weapons faster? Like, what exactly does that mean? I'm not sure. Another one is pointless considering every round all players end up with the same gear. Yeah. So every round, obviously the first round, the max tier loot you can get is blue. The second tier is purple and possibly gold. And then third tier is gold. But then by like round 3 or 4, every single player has pretty much fully kitted out loadouts that, I don't know, I feel like makes sense for terms of balance. But at the same time, like if you're still losing and you've lost 2 rounds and they haven't got off a bomb yet, you will still have the chance to get legendary items basically off the rip, especially from the shop. So like if you can play decent defense and then just go balls to the wall and buy everything in the shop, then like there's no point in really even trying to win for the first like round or two, because you can just play a super long defense and then just go and slam somebody at the end. But I mean, you also still have to perform and so on and so forth. Which, I don't know. I still personally believe that you should drop your equipment when you die, because I think making the loot more rare would, one, be much better in a sense of being able to actually make a purpose around looting, not just going to find the same prefabbed item just randomly in a box. I think that if you kill someone with a golden sniper rifle or a legendary assault rifle, you should have the option to go pick that up. The only problem is the game is very, quick pace. It wants you to move fast. It wants to be played fast. And if you did that, it would, take away from all of that basically. So a lot of things that they could do and a lot of things that, you know, they probably aren't going to do, which is okay. It's just the way that the game's supposed to be played. Okay. Next thing, fighting for and planning the shield breaker. Being aggressive pays off. So, which also goes in tandem with playing too defensive gets you raided. So the weird thing is, if you play very, very aggressive and you get the shield breaker, you don't have to plant the shield breaker. As long as you're holding onto it for the allotted amount of time, which they give you for planting it initially, and then the overtime, you still get to raid the enemy team. So being aggressive and holding on to it really pays off. The only problem is it kind of forces the defensive team to play offense and defense, which is kind of weird at the same time. So like there's not a fight for the shield breaker that's like a 3v3 or a 5v5, and then you get to go do it. It's very much capture the flag in a sense of some of your team is running around just fighting random people, and then other people are actually defending the gates. So the whole system, I see why it works and I see why it doesn't, and that kind of sucks. But the fights also get intense, and the rush of planting the shield breaker is very, very fun, in my opinion, at least. It didn't look like it in the last video, but my adrenaline's just going the entire time. I'm like, okay, I got it. I got to go plant it. And then you finally plant it, and you're like, yes! Like, now I just dealt a bunch of damage to their team, and now this giant siege barge comes out of a beam of light. It's cool. It's very, very cool. But there are cons. Holding onto the shield breaker without planning it after overtime still gets you a raid. So it's very strange that you have a double win condition here for playing this section of the game, which is, I guess you could call the like middle/meat of the game. You don't necessarily have to plant the shield breaker. The only thing is, if you plant the shield breaker, then you deal more damage. But if you don't, you still get the props for being able to raid, which in a way kind of makes sense. But at the same time, if my team is here and their team is here, and we go and get the shield breaker somewhere in this area of the map, and then I just run back this way, no matter how many times we kill the enemy team, they're still gonna have to spawn up here in their part of the map, and then hop on their mount and ride all the way to us. And we can just play defense. It doesn't even matter. So like, in a way, it makes sense that you are allowed to raid. And also the other thing that makes sense, but this also just kind of sucks, is like, they have to give you a certain amount of time because the matches would just go on forever. But it almost seems unfair that you still get to raid even if you're just holding on to the shield, but you haven't made any forward progress. I don't know. I don't know what I would change instead of that. I think I would still force the enemy team, give them, I don't know, X amount of time to plan it. And if they don't, then I don't know, maybe it just goes to like sudden death and everybody gets teleported into an arena and then you have to fight to see who raids. I think that would be really, really cool. Because, I mean, the shield breaker could just go and then everybody gets teleported into an arena. I don't know. But it seems almost unfair that holding the shield breaker after overtime still gets you a raid, even though you didn't necessarily have to do anything. There's probably plenty of other people that have had this happen to them. Another con, the shield breaker is shown on the map, which this is kind of like in and out, which on offense, this really sucks because trying to plant the shield breaker, you know, you would think that it would be almost fair that you wouldn't be shown. But then at the same time on defense, if they didn't show you where the shield breaker was, everybody would just run to the other side of the map or just run to like the most far off part of the shield. And then they would just, you know, plant it there, and then everybody would go, oh, well, oh my God, we didn't see it. We didn't hear him. What happened? And the other kind of con is it kind of takes a second and you can die fairly quickly. I don't know if it automatically starts the animation for the siege, or if it counts as soon as you put the sword in, or after you like pull it back out towards the barge. But that's the thing that might need to be tested, or at least confirmed with me as far as I understand. Because I don't know, it seems kind of ridiculous that you can get all the way to the enemy base, plant the sword, and then you have to do the animation and let it play through all the way out. Like, for example, an all-time favorite game of mine, Gears of War, as soon as you so in the original and I think the second one, when you started the animation, that was when the like when you wanted to curb stomp someone, the animation can't be stopped. So even if you waited that half second and then you popped their head off with your foot, the kill still counted even if someone sniped you before you stomped on their face. So I'm wondering if this is more of a system like that where you can get killed in the middle of it, or if you still get the points for even just running up to it and hitting E or X or square or whatever the button is. Oh my gosh, my throat has never been this dry. Okay, rating. Also, there's a couple other ones that I wanted to can't see defenders from. No. Actually, let's just put it this way. Can see slash attackers. Can see defenders slash attackers. Okay. So pros, the raids can get very, very intense. There have been a lot of really, really intense team fights that I've had on a bunch of different objectives. There's stuff blowing up. There's people casting their abilities. It's absolute chaos. There's footsteps coming from all sorts of other places. It can get very fun, but it can also get very, very kind of like just the chaos of battle. The chaos of battle can get very, very hectic and you don't really know what's going on. And then the next thing you know, you're getting hit by 3 people, then you die. Now they're planting the bomb. You know, nobody's alive, so on and so forth. Another thing is you can't win on round 1 anymore unless you blow up the anchor stone, which this is a really great thing that they changed recently. I think last Thursday or last Friday, where basically you could just keep planting bombs until you won the game. But then I had this experience multiple times where you get steamrolled in 5 minutes and it's not fun. The game is not fun when you get steamrolled that quickly. I mean, take any other shooter. I mean, Halo, Call of Duty. I mean, take a game like League of Legends, where if you get into a game and you're 15 minutes in and your top laner or your mid laner is, 0-8, and you know that the game is over because they have a character that is so incredibly fed that you just can't beat them because they're a hyper carry, you just want to forfeit. And that's what some of my games have definitely become, is a 3v3 team or even a 5v5 game. They plant the bomb on the anchor stone and my entire team's like, dude, I can't kill this guy. I don't know what's going on. Whatever. So that is a really, really great feature that you can't win on round 1 anymore. So now if you plant one bomb and blow it up, unless it is the anchor stone, you basically get teleported back to your base and then you restart and go for round 2. Now to another thing. You can see defenders and attackers, which can be good and can be very bad. I think as a defender, it's helpful and it's very cinematic that you can see the attacking team. But as an attacker, it kind of thwarts the purpose of surprise and makes it somewhat difficult unless you have proper equipment, which means you have to go loot a whole bunch of boxes. It can make it very hard to attack, especially depending on the base that the team that you're raiding chooses. It can make it very, very difficult to get to objectives, especially if they have the certain types of weapons or certain characters that can play really good defense. So yeah, that's both for and against the player. The potential to be spawn camped. I talked about this earlier. Yeah, you can be spawn camped as a defender. So the attacking team, I don't know if they would need to rework the spawns or make some sort of thing like a lot of shooters do, where you have sort of spawn protection for the first 4 or 5 seconds. That could be really cool, but it does happen. It also sucks that you have a limited number of lives instead of a limited number of time. I mean, when you raid, it's basically giving everyone in a 3v3 2 lives. And then in a 5v5, it gives like 3 different people, 3 lives pretty much. It's kind of the average. Which having a number of lives kind of like makes sense, but it would be much more of a rush if you were given a short amount of time instead. Like if they said, "Hey, you have 90 seconds to go plant 2 bombs." I mean, even make the potential of planting 2 bombs. I don't know. I think that would make the game way more chaotic, but then it would also make it a lot more tactical. Because if you're in a 3v3 match and the bomb takes 40 seconds to blow up as the defending enemy team, if there are, well, actually no, that could go really bad because if you go to the wrong spot, I mean, but you could 3v2 or 3v1 and then defuse that bomb, but then you could also run to the other bomb, so on and so forth. There's a lot of different ways that you could play this out, but I think the way that they currently have it kind of sucks. And I'll explain why in a second. Also, spawn times are long. As a defender, it's hard watching yourself die and having what, like a 15-second spawn timer on a bomb that takes 40 seconds. So basically, you're already splitting your time to get back to the bomb that is blowing up or about to blow up. I mean, you're basically splitting it into something between a half and a third. It's insane. They should definitely make the spawn time shorter or at least make the defuse time longer, so on and so forth. Which I already talked about this. You can win or lose in one match. I personally believe what they should do with sieging is make it more like Rainbow Six Siege. I think they should make it to where, if you've got a 5v5 game and you've got 3 points, give everybody on attack and defense 1 life. If you wipe the enemy team, cool. You automatically get 35 points and you restart. If you plant the bomb and you blow up the bomb, you get your points and then you reset and go to round 2. Because it seems like this infinite just pressure on trying to plant one of the bomb sites, and then people end up just getting into these ridiculous, like, never-ending fights that it just kind of feels like that it's like a never-ending conflict, and there's not much of a reset. But I think it would change the game immensely if you said, again, if you were to do it this way, say, hey, you have 2 minutes to go and blow up one of these bombs or eliminate the entire enemy team. It would slow down everything and make it so much more tactical, at least in my opinion. I think it would really do a whole lot for it. But I don't know. I think that they could do the most changes in the rating aspect of the game. Heroes and champions. So some of them are OP as fuck, which this is just honest to God. And some of their ultimates are very useful and some of them aren't. Like, for example, is it Kai? Kai's Ice Giant form is really cool, but it doesn't really work super well and also isn't kind of useful. You have a lot of health, but then at the same time, you don't deal a whole lot of damage. You're kind of just more like a walking tank. And, I mean, certain other ultimates are really, really helpful. The dude that spawns in fire, like his is actually pretty crazy because you have to then run out of the like radius or the circumference of the circle, the diameter. Oh my god, math terms. You have to run out of the like diameter of the circle so that you don't get hit by fire, and it does a lot of damage. For example, the guy I forget what his name is, but the one that can leap. His ultimate is almost practically useless outside of breaking down walls. It does not deal anything to heroes. No, I scratched that. It does a little bit of damage to heroes, but not nearly enough. You're basically more of a utility than you are basically an ultimate caster, which is my next one. Some are useless in many scenarios. Some of the characters are basically, what is it? Una? Una is fairly decent in a sense of gathering loot and planting those little dudes down, but her ultimate, as far as I've seen, it doesn't really do a whole lot. I mean, you can basically run right by it. It doesn't move or anything. It just stands there. It's kind of just like a sentry turret, but it also dies fairly quickly. On the other hand, which, some ultimates are dog shit and some ultimates are powerful. So the Atticus ultimate is really cool and it's very fun, but it also makes you a sitting duck, which I guess is fair. What's the chick that she gives everybody health or like some kind of overshield? Her ultimate is interesting because she can just create a spawn point, which I mean, I guess makes life a lot easier, you know, because you can set it off to the side of a building or something, and then everybody can come in and do things like that. So I don't know. Personally, I think the heroes and champion or slash champions of the game, I think they could be tweaked a little bit, but I think most of them are in a pretty good spot. I think some of them just need like a little bit of a tweak, which they've already done to some of them. But I was about to say, I think it was the last one. Which leads us to this. Weapons and equipment. If you watched my last video, one thing that does not make a lot of sense to me is that the game basically gets harder the longer you play it. And what I mean by that is they're not so much decreasing the time to kill. They're more just increasing the survivability slash the potential for doing more damage. So, for example, you're never doing more damage unless you get a legendary weapon that tells you that you're dealing more damage. You're basically just getting a bigger magazine size, which to me doesn't really sit well. The game already has a very, very long time to kill. It's almost Gears of War long, which to anybody that's played Gears of War, you would, you know, understand, because a lot of people, especially friends of mine, they have given up on Gears of War because the time to kill is so long, and it is quite difficult because most people in Gears of War use shotguns. So yes, the time to kill is very, very long for most of the weapons. Also, I don't know. I just feel like they could do more damage. I feel like the sniper does way too much, and I feel like the SMG doesn't do enough. But for some reason, the SMG, the Viper and the Vanguard do the same amount of damage. Kind of strange, but the Viper shoots 3 times faster than the Vanguard, so it's like you definitely have trade-offs with the weapons, but also they just don't feel like they fit in their respective hub. Like, as much as I don't like Call of Duty anymore, I can give them props that every single weapon in Call of Duty feels a little different. I mean, some of them shoot a little faster, some of them have more kick to them, some of them carry certain attachments with them, so on and so forth, and you can kind of make your own build and make your own weapon, and that will suit your playstyle. You know, if you want to have the longest like ADS time, but you want to have no recoil, you can do that. If you want to have 0 ADS time and possibly deal with a bit of recoil or deal with a bit of weapon swap speed or something else, or have a beam on your weapon at all times so that people will see you aiming at them, then yeah, like that's a drawback, but you're sacrificing stability for concealment, so on and so forth. So here's where the pros are. There's no attachments for the guns, which I talked about this with a buddy of mine, and like adding attachments to a system where you don't necessarily have attachments or you don't need them could be really tedious, because take something like Apex Legends. That match is taking place over the course of, I don't know, maybe 20 minutes, 15 minutes, maybe longer. I haven't played a match of Apex in a while, but you have way more chances to go find these items in a lot of different chests, and especially off of other players. So what they've basically done here is they've supplemented the attachment system for the rarity system, which, I mean, you know, you get a purple gun, you get a bigger magazine, way bigger magazine, and you reload faster. You know, you get a blue weapon, the stability is increased. I still don't really know what that means. And you get an increased magazine. So they've already supplemented them into the rarities, which is nice because you don't have to worry about any of that stuff. But I could also see how it could make the game unique by not having the same basically weapon build as somebody else. I feel like it would be much more fun if you all weren't running around with just the same weapons. It doesn't feel, especially because there's a loot system, it just doesn't feel like an authentic loot. It just feels like you're running around with the same guns everybody else has, like a Counter-Strike or a Valorant, you know? You and somebody else can have the exact same gun. It's just who shot better and who had better reflexes, you know? Who followed the recoil pattern better, so on and so forth. But what also is cool is the legendary versions of the guns get that flavor added to them. Like the legendary sniper, that thing shoots fully automatic, and if you wanted to make it a ×6 scope and get right next to somebody, it's awesome. That is pretty cool. The double barrel or the legendary Kraken shoots 2 shotgun shells really quickly, so the potential for killing somebody very fast is very high if your aim is good, and so on and so forth. So I think if they had different, more like Borderlands style, like affixes or prefixes or something to the weapons that made them more unique, then you could eventually go and find that one that you want, and then you can rock with it for the rest of the round. I personally think that that would be really fun, because having the same gun as everybody else, if there's rarity involved or like chance involved, I don't want the same chance as everybody. I mean, we're already throwing in chance. Like, the game's not fair anyways. On to the cons. I already said that the time to kill is very long, at least in my opinion. Recoil practically has the same amount no matter what the rarity is. I feel like this should definitely be something that's changed. It doesn't make sense to me that no matter what weapon rarity, say that 5 times fast. It does not matter what weapon rarity you have, it seems like the gun still performs the exact same. So the dopamine fix in my brain says, oh, I got something better, but it's not performing much better. You know what I mean? When you get a higher gun level in Call of Duty or Battlefield, you unlock attachments that you can then attach to that weapon and make them perform better. When I get a golden weapon, I'm not thinking I've got golden rarity loot. That's not what I'm thinking, or at least it doesn't feel like that. I've already talked about the time to kill gets longer over time. The descriptions are misleading and confusing. So one of the things is, if you go and look at this, which you'll find if you saw my last video where I go through the firing range, every weapon rarity tier, including the Masterworks, gives you a higher magazine count. But what's weird is when you go from, when you get to the blue tier, you get an increased magazine size. When you go to blue Masterwork, you get an extra 4 bullets, at least for the assault rifles. I don't know about the SMGs. When you go to the purple tier, you still get an increased magazine size, but it's not represented as a highlighted purple color. So for the people that aren't attentive to detail, shouldn't that also tell me that when I level up that rarity for that gun, or I get that different rarity, that should also be indicated? And I mean, the other thing that I've said at least 3 or 4 times in this footage is, what is stability? What is stability in this game? Is it, because it's not recoil. I already proved that, unless it's recoil while moving, which would be kind of ridiculous in a sense. But what does stability mean here? It doesn't tell me anything. So I don't know. I think that there's definitely a couple changes that they could add to this to at least say, you know, what is all this? And I don't know. I think that they could go very, very far with it. And I think, yeah, back over this way. And I think that there could be a lot of different things done, but I don't know. I'm not a developer for the game. I think that there's a lot of different directions this could go. I think they could slow it down in certain areas, and I think that there could be a lot of things changed. But, you know, until then, I don't know. I guess we'll just have to see what they say. So thank you for watching, and I hope that you can find fun in playing Highguard, because I find some fun in it, especially with my buddies. It's a very good time. So I don't know. Have your fun, don't have your fun, whatever you want to do. I'm cool with it. Deuces.